I found out that there's a lot of controversy when it comes to sitting versus standing while cornering a dirt bike. So I just want to share my thoughts after almost 25 years of trail riding experience. Number one, if you're riding single track trails that have a lot of bumps or whoops in the corners, it's almost always better to stand. Because when you're standing and your bike is getting bounced around up and down, you can absorb a lot of those bumps with your legs and your ankles. You can let the bike work under you. So the bike is rocking back and forth while your head, your upper body is staying very smooth. Whereas if you were sitting on those bumps or whooped out corners, you'd be getting bounced around on the bike. This is bad for a couple of reasons. When you're getting bounced around, it makes it harder to be smooth with the throttle. You tend to squeeze harder and death grip the bars, making it more likely to be jerky with the throttle. The bike wants to bounce even more, and that's when you start to slide out on the corner. And when you're sitting and you're getting bounced up and down, this unsettles or bounces the suspension and tires even more. So even if the tires are staying on the ground, if they're being loaded and unloaded because you're being bounced around more, you're not getting as much traction. Think about the knobs that are digging into the ground. Let's say my finger is the knob and it's digging all the way into the ground. It's going to get a lot better traction because it can pull all that dirt. But if it's being bounced up and down like this, once it gets up here, it only has a little bit of knob in the ground. So it's a lot more likely to spin and not get traction. So you're more likely to slide out, and you can't use as much brake or throttle consistently. When the suspension and tires are being compressed, you can, but once it unloads and comes back up, you gotta let off the throttle and brake. So it's like, it's just not smooth. It makes it a lot harder to ride faster in corners. Now, number two, if you're riding a flat or smooth or slippery corner or all of the above, I personally find that it's much easier to sit down. There's three reasons why. I find that it's easier to get traction with my body position because it's easier to get more weight over the tires. And because if you're standing up, it just takes a little bit more balance in my opinion, where if you're sitting, it's a lot easier to get your weight shifted over and put that load to on top of the tires, so you're less likely to slide out. Reason number two is if it's smooth and you're not getting bounced around, you're going to conserve a lot more energy if you're sitting down, especially from your legs and your back and your knees. You still got to use your core and your upper body, but you can relax a lot of your muscles when you're sitting down. Reason number three is because I find that it's easier to balance when sitting because you have a lower center of gravity. Because when you're standing up, it gives you a more top-heavy feeling, and when the center of gravity is higher, it's harder to balance. Whereas if you're lower and sitting on the bike, it's easier to balance because the center of gravity is lower. Think of it if you've ever tried standing and walking on stilts. Whether they're an extra foot taller or 3 feet taller, it's a lot harder because it requires a lot more balance when you're up higher. Learning how to properly stand is extremely important if you want to have the most control when riding trails. But in my opinion, you do not need to stand 100% of the time. At least the trails where I ride. Like here in Minnesota, I might be standing 30 to 50% of the time, whereas out in Colorado, I might be standing 70 to 80% of the time. It just depends on the type of terrain that you're riding, because I like to sit as much as possible to conserve energy as long as I'm not getting bucked off the seat. And if you want to learn a little more why I think standing up 100% of the time might not be best for trail riders, you should check out this video right here. I'm Kelly Figa from MXHideout. Ride safe, have fun.